Hey guys, today's mindfulness challenge is a little challenging in the sense that I can only, with the systems and tools and knowledge that I'm working with right now, um, cover so much in such little time. So I am going to be going through this a little quickly because we have a longer chapter and more things to discuss. But just to give credit where credit is due, this is what we're using for our 21-day mindfulness challenge, the 21-day mindfulness challenge book. You can get it on Amazon. I'm adhering to fair use here as far as I'm aware, and I own this book in 3 different formats, as I've mentioned previously. So please, by all means, go out and get it, especially if you want to participate in this challenge, because, well, the book's going to go into a lot more detail than I can really cover in a 5 to 10 minute video. So with that being said, let's get right started today. Today we're actually talking about the myths about mindfulness, myth number 1 and number 2. You have to be Buddhist to practice mindfulness. That's myth number 1. And mindfulness is a religion. Well, that's myth number 2. And though in Buddhism and in yogic philosophy, there's a discussion and belief of right action and right method. Well, if you're really focused on doing this correctly, if you're spending a lot of time on money and books in regards to mindfulness, just be aware that that's not necessary. There is no one culture, philosophy, or religion that owns mindfulness, and mindfulness is compatible with all of them. Yes, all of them. Now, that might be a little bit hard to believe, but it is possible for someone, even from a violent background or something of that nature, to be mindful. Is it likely for someone who's mindful to be violent? Probably not, but it just goes to show that, well, you can really change your life whenever you want to if you choose to practice awareness and practice mindfulness. So just know you don't have to be Buddhist and you don't have to be religious. You can be religious or you cannot. It's absolutely your choice, and mindfulness will work for you either way. This one's a little tricky for me. Mindfulness and meditation. It says here the myth is you have to meditate to be mindful. No, you don't have to. I find it tremendously helpful, and a lot of other people do as well. However, it says here that meditation is not the same thing as mindfulness, in the same way that thinking is not the same as going to school. Well, going to school certainly means thinking is more likely to happen. Going to school in and of itself is nothing special. Take it from a high school dropout, okay? Mindfulness is apathetic. We talked about this on Monday. Acceptance is not the same as apathy or agreeing. Somebody insults you or life throws you a curveball, accepting it is completely different from agreeing with it or being apathetic toward it. Myth number 4, mindfulness feels really blissful and amazing. Mindfulness can lead you to appreciate life more, even with its challenges and difficulties. Excuse me. Thanks to you especially, since I've been mindful these last few days, even with these challenges, well, you're starting to see I'm starting to feel better. And I got my car back, and don't you know it, repairs still had to be done, but those were on the two front tires. So I've got a free rental car for the weekend, and I'm getting two brand new free tires, which were really only about half their lifetime of usage so far. So I could complain, but through being mindful, I'm making the best out of a bad situation. Mindfulness can soothe stress and solve all your mental health issues. Well, this is the last myth we have here, and it's a doozy. But, you know, the idea of mindfulness as a prescription for mental illness can be a dangerous one. But if we're talking about a legitimate physiological problem in the brain, that's something else. While mindfulness can definitely help even in those situations, it's not a solution on its own. So go with the gut, the other brain. If you sense something is physically wrong with you, emotionally you're having difficulties, or spiritually, psychologically, please get the help and treatment you know likely not only need but deserve. Services are available for you, and I am more than happy to refer you to them. And if you need help securing them, I can go through those processes with you, along with the network of professionals that I work with. So see a doctor of your choosing, therapist, counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, and then if you are dealing with spiritual difficulties, you can always see someone. Should you be religious, that's in your house of worship, your church, your temple, wherever it may be, spiritual advisors, that sort of thing. If that's not really how you handle things, there's certainly self-help groups online, friends, families, loved ones. Perhaps you're in a network where you work with people who really have no problem mentoring you. That's something else you might be interested in seeking out. So from what I can tell, at least for those that I've worked with who happen to be watching this video, I'm sure, as we all do, we still have our challenges, our difficulties, but those are opportunities for growth. And there's a lot that can happen with meditation and yoga and the right diet and exercise and positive thinking and the integrative Eastern side of things. Absolutely phenomenal. Can hopefully prevent illness and help us live longer, more fruitful lives. But at the same time, like I was saying, if you've got a head injury or something, that's a situation where you really need to get taken care of yourself stat. And there are professionals who have devoted so much of their lives in order to help you in those very situations. I strongly encourage you to seek their support. I hope it goes without saying that if you happen to be dealing with a crisis right now, an emergency, stop watching this video immediately, dial 911, get the services that you need. So that being said, today's exercise is to simply ask yourself, what's your take on some of these myths? If there's someone who's saying their way is the right way when it comes to mindfulness, and you can only practice it one way, I would say that's not mindfulness. If you'll pardon the yogic pun, they're not being very flexible, and that's really the ego or mindlessness talking. It's a little counterintuitive since I'm saying this is the right way, but if you think about it, what I'm saying is go with what you know. Go with what works for you. If something isn't working for you anymore, Maybe that's because it's time for a change and time for additional growth in your life. Maybe you need to have an integrative approach and you can still benefit from one thing, but also benefit from other things as well. Today is, I think, a real challenge because we're addressing some of these myths and really reconstructing our awareness of what mindfulness really is. But just remember, just because some of these myths exist, perhaps they formulated, simply because they're related to each other. But it goes without saying, you don't have to be religious to be mindful. You don't have to be Buddhist. You don't even have to be You don't even have to meditate. It often helps, but if meditation isn't your thing, or at least sitting meditation isn't your thing, you can still practice breathing, myriad of other techniques that are complementary to mindfulness. Use the ones that speak to you, certainly. And with that being said, if you're aware that that change needs to happen, or you're aware that something isn't working for you, well, simply explore it more. Maybe it doesn't work for you for a reason. Maybe it's not working for you in this moment. But the simple fact that you're being aware of it proves that you're already being mindful. Mull over some of these myths. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank yourself for taking the time to practice this today. Namaste.